Talk to us about where your portfolio stands today and then the inception into how you started your brokerage.
Yeah, absolutely. Portfolio today is pretty small. We talked about this. Divorce is real.
Facts.
Yeah,
We just talked about this.
Sorry,
you
boys.
no, it's
Thanks for
okay.
bringing it up,
Yeah.
dude. I know you hated Ryan.
Yeah, I'm 47 years old, right? And so for me, the way I look at least generally speaking, 30s are builder years, right? I come from, my mom is a social worker. My dad is a plumber. I had zero entrepreneurial background. I didn't know, I remember sitting in a meeting one time and Derek, my mentor, who I mentioned, brought me into the real estate business. We were with about 6 or 8 of our colleagues. He said, I want you guys to go home and come back and tell us, in effect, what your superpower. What are you built for in the world? And I remember coming back and everyone was going around the table and there was one who was like, I'm an entrepreneur. Another one was like, I create opportunities for people. And I remember I said, I'm the world's greatest sales guy. And I was like, didn't sound cool to me. It sounded gross. Like I left and I was like, it's true. But like, I remember walking out the door and looking back at everyone. I was like, I'm really lucky to be working with you entrepreneurial guys. I'm not an entrepreneur. And I walked out the door. I just didn't believe I was an entrepreneur. I was so far outside of my scope of reality. So it ended up really kind of becoming learned behavior. In those 30s, it was builder years. I built up a portfolio of, I think I had 11 single family houses. And then I guess my primary residence, and I had a commercial building that we reside in. It's a 9,000 square foot commercial building for the business. And then the business itself, a real estate brokerage, I bought a failing brokerage for $20,000, had 30 agents. They were good agents, but the owner principal kind of just mismanaged everything for the wrong reason. And over about a 7-year period of time, I grew that 30 agents to 290 agents. And I really, it's fun sitting here with you guys. This is really like the beginning of the next chapter of my life, where I'm like, I've been on record as saying in the last couple of years, I completely misdeployed my talent. Right now, in a way, I really love growing people. I love coaching and teaching. It's kind of a natural endeavor of mine. So I did it, but it certainly wasn't it didn't pay the best, right? If that makes sense, you'd think it would. Our agents represented buyers and sellers on 14,000 houses. And I can tell you that our net profits annually never surpassed $1 million.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about that. It's just a tiny margin business in the state of Arizona. And the way that we built it was right for the agent and wrong for the business, right? What it took was a cultural business. It was heavily predicated on agents being able to express their suffering in an open forum and us help them grow both personally and professionally. But that requires a massive amount of human capital. It requires a massive amount of brick and mortar. And those two things for a real estate brokerage are absolute killers. And we couldn't get ourselves out of it because we had pigeonholed ourselves into this kind of moniker of the place that you go to grow yourself. It was like a personal development company that didn't charge the right fee, if that makes sense. So now, and then divorce, Arizona's pretty easy. It's 50-50 if anyone wants to know. And there's no way to really hide it unless you want to go to jail or be a bad human. And so, and I was telling him, something to know though, and I think it's valuable is, for me, the one thing I had to come out of that with, because I had my working years ahead of me, was I needed to own the business and the building outright. So in order to do that, she got all the cash and she got virtually all of the portfolio, because that was the even trade in the state basically for the business valuation and the building. So I really started, when divorce was final, I had a thriving business that didn't make a lot of money, frankly, relative to the effort and the liability, frankly, and a building that I owed about what it was worth. But I had a lot of working years, a lot of horsepower, a lot of knowledge. And it was one of those things where you just go, hey, this is what cards I dealt myself, if I'm being real. And I'm going to go get after it and play get back. I could say right now I'm close to even again, which feels like a huge win for me.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's a real life story too. A lot of people hide from that. And like, I appreciate you sharing it, because there's probably a lot of people listening like, damn, like I am going through that and I want to build back. And just, it's a mental battle too. It's not just
100%.
dollars and cents.
It was all mental battle because I had everything. I had the network. I knew how to market. I knew how to find deals. I knew how to underwrite deals. I had a reputation. People would trust me in town. If I brought you a deal and say I got a deal, I can do a deal. So I had everything I didn't have before I built, right?
Yep.
If that makes sense. But man,
That kind of goes to one of my questions.
Well, dude, I think we're going to ask the same one.
Oh, you go. We did this before. Let's see if it's, go ahead.
I don't think
Go
it
ahead.
is.
Let's go.
It might not be. But one of the questions we ask people is if you were stripped of everything. Yeah.
Nailed
If
it.
you were stripped of
Back to
everything,
back.
how would you build it back? And it's not, you weren't stripped of everything, but you just mentioned that you were at a break-even point. I don't have to ask the question hypothetically to you. I can ask it like, what's next for you? Like, what do you want to do? You have all the knowledge. You've built it up. You've worked in several different sectors and you understand business now. What's next for you?
Yeah, I told you guys I closed on a little multifamily deal today, which is exciting. The way the deal came together is amazing. Before I just exited the brokerage, by the way, 4 weeks ago. And that was a very purposeful, there's kind of a philosophy behind that decision, which was in order for anything new or big to come into your life, you have to free up space for it to do so. And the biggest block in my life was the broker. My relationship had entered into the obligatory space, where I was doing it because I was obligated to the promises that I had made to all the people within that company. And for me, that big thing of like, but I know what I have. Like, I know that if I'm gonna go do what I'm supposed to do in the world, this is the thing that's stopping me from doing that. So exited the brokerage just 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I would say the several months leading up to that were 2 big pivotal moments. One where I was in my office alone doing weird things that I do in my office. We can talk about those too. And I wrote down I'm the world's greatest speaker, right? Now, what I mean by I'm the world's greatest speaker is not that you're gonna think I'm the world's greatest speaker, but like, what does it take to be the world's, like, what are the steps that it takes to be great? It's the quiet, right? It's the stuff that nobody sees, when nobody's looking. And I clearly understand what that means. And so for me, that's going to be an artistic endeavor for me. The other is the reputation that I built in this town specifically. I have access to what most people wish in terms of money, relationships, deals. I mean, it's just so much word of mouth in this city. It's a 6 million person city, but it acts very small. And so from that perspective, it's like, I just got to go get myself deep in deals. Like, I got to go take some risks. I know enough now that I can risk myself in or risk myself out of deals. I'm really not worried. And I've got enough horsepower now to be able to play. And so on my way over here, I had one of the best luxury spec builders in Paradise Valley call me and go, hey dude, I just want to tell you, Dan has access to a $500 million fund. He'll spend as much as he wants, but he calls me big time. And he calls him big time because he does only big luxury specs. And he goes, he's made most of his money doing smaller deals. And he wants me to call you and go, let's go. And not only does he want you to source him, but he wants to bring you in as a partner on the portfolio. Like, this happened right now. And I parked my car and I got out of my car and I looked up and I was like, it's fucking like right now. It's time where like, it's that thing you don't know when you let go of the idea of knowing what's going to happen and you get comfortable not knowing, the rest takes care of itself.